Welcome back to another recording of the Elevate Media Podcast. I'm Chris Anderson, your host. Today, we're going to get into how you're able to monetize your message. So you might sell something periodically, but it's the in-between. Are you guiding your audience to come back and buy from you again when they need to? So excited to dive into this topic today. We brought in an expert to guide us through this in his triangle of success. He's an educator, entrepreneur, speaker, the host of the Make the Great Experience podcast. He's got over 2,000 long-form content assets and 600 plus podcast appearances. So we're going to be diving into how you can build your brand and monetize your message, even if you're just getting started. And we're doing that today with Dr. Stephen Greene. Dr. Greene, welcome to the show.
Chris, thank you. I am excited to be here. Excited to share some wisdom, get people fired up, and let's do it. Let's jump in.
Excited to have you. Absolutely. So we'll dive right into it. You've had a great career, a lot of successes with business. Can you explain what the triangle of success is?
Simple. Triangle, three pieces, right? Three vertices, if you want to use the math term.
Yeah, there you go.
What I learned, basically, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an educator and entrepreneur. I work with a lot. I started volunteering to coach startup entrepreneurs in about 2014. And I realized a couple things. Eventually, it took about a year to formulate this, but this is the concept of the triangle. There are three things, more than three really, but three core things a business or an entrepreneur needs to go. One, you need a product that you can sell that people want.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, how many times people selling something, nobody's buying it.
Right.
Or they're selling something good, but they're outpricing themselves, or there's too much competition. Anyway, you need a product people want and will buy. Yep. Number two is you need a system, especially if you're online. You need an automated, preferably, system that's running 24 hours a day in your sleep, that is getting your message out there to the world because it's competitive.
Yeah.
System. Number two, that's the system. Number three is you need coaching. You need mentoring. I like to use the word mentoring. It just sounds, I don't know, more cooperative somehow. And not in a predatory way. I don't want to mentor somebody just to make money.
Right.
It's because it accelerates your success. It took me 8 or 10 years to get really good at what I did. And I think with the proper mentoring, I could have done that in a year.
Yeah.
Maybe less, but, and that's the idea. So product, system, mentoring, that's the triangle.
I love that. And keeping it simple, right? Keep it super simple, or keep it super, or keep it simple, stupid, however we're looking at it.
It's always, well, what it is, you always want to operate in your strength, right? If your strength is not building funnels and building systems, do you want to spend 6 weeks trying to learn how to use a program or a system that does it? It's easier to offload it and outsource it, right? And you just have to accept that it's going to be a cost of doing business potentially, but it'll happen way faster. Same with mentoring.
Yeah.
So most people, at least most entrepreneurs I work with, are focused on their product. They learn how to talk about their product, how to market their product. What I believe is really critical is educating your prospects about the value of what you do, whether it's a service, whether it's a physical product, whether it's a tool, utility, software, whatever it is, and getting them to understand you are the go-to person. You are the subject matter expert. You are the preeminent source for what you're doing, because there's always going to be competition. It's almost never is there a situation where you're the only person doing what you're doing,
right,
and you have to stand out that way. So you can educate people, hey, this is why you need this product broadly, and this is why you want to work with me specifically. Differentiators, there's all the keywords. What's your differentiator? What's your separator? What's your value proposition? Call it what you want. But until people understand that, they're just probably shopping price.
Yeah. So how can we do that? Because, we hear give your best stuff away for free, give as much value as you can away for free, and then sell implementation, right? So how do people walk that line of giving value and helping and serving, but also not doing everything for free? Like, how do you kind of walk that line with your message?
Here's the truth.
Yeah.
All right. Let me answer that question just by a story.
Okay.
Okay. If you go to one of my capture pages,
Mhm.
getgreene.net, Greene, at the end because I'm extra special according to my mom.
Yeah.
I will give you for free, no strings attached, a 65-minute video that tells you exactly the exact same 7-step process I use personally and charge people a pretty penny for to help them create any kind of long form content.
Okay.
Ebook, podcast, webinar, book, video course, you name it. I'll give it to you for free. I don't know, 8,000 downloads of it because I built the list, right?
Yeah.
It's a lead magnet.
Mhm.
But it is literally what I do. It is literally the same thing in order with instructions with checkpoints. You know how many people have actually used it on their own?
Probably very few.
I don't even know 5. I wish they
Wow.
would.
Right.
I don't want them not to.
Right.
It's just they don't. They get stalled. They get distracted. They got more important things to do. They don't have the focus. They're not disciplined. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You only need one bad excuse, right?
Yeah.
So I think your point is absolutely right. You want to provide value because you want to help people. But it's also to use a term my aunt always used, it's a vibe, right? People can tell when you're just trying to fleece them.
Sure.
There's always that like sort of snake oil sale, the used car salesman vibe. You don't want that. You want a vibe of, hey, Chris, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
I want us to be teammates. Your success in part is my success, right? Let me try to help you get to the next level, get to the next level. Because success leaves a trail, right? People say, hey man, look at Chris. He's kicking butt. He's making 7 figures a day. How'd you do it, Chris? Well, I got to tell you, learned it from my mentor over here. So you have to take the attitude that you're not giving away something that's losing for you. You're not, if I give Chris my course, I'm losing money because I could have sold it to him.
Yeah.
That's not how you can think. You
Right.
think I'm giving this away because it shows my mindset of where I'm at. And then if somebody chooses to engage, they know I can only I can only level it up from there. And when I say I'm talking collectively of everybody in this sort of mentoring coaching space.
Yeah.
Um, the only other thing I'll say about it is this: there's a lot of kind of copycat stuff, and I understand why people do it. Right? People go and they look at something that somebody else is doing, and maybe they've repackaged it a little bit. They change the colors, they change the wording, but they're basically giving away the same sort of thing.
Right.
And that's not really creating value. The way you create value is by understanding what your prospects need and what they want so they can get to the next step. And sometimes it's really fundamental. I got so many case studies I can talk about, but I've talked to people that are afraid to talk on the phone.
Huh.
How are you going to sell if you can't talk to somebody? Well, I want to build a system that closes it with me not having to talk to anyone.
Right.
Well, your close rate's a lot lower when you do that, right? I mean, you like everybody, right? Everybody. I mean, unless you got a super fantastic funnel and
Right.
you're doing, major traffic, maybe it's a skill you might have to, look at your fears and deal with it. But
Yeah.
you gotta meet people where you are. I think that's part of providing value. Sometimes people aren't ready. Some people aren't ready for like the advanced course
Yep.
if they're only at the beginner level too.
Yeah.
So
Do
I
you-
don't worry about giving anything away to kind of answer sort of what your question
yeah.
was.
So giving them opportunity to use the information and then, once they're ready for that next implementation that's maybe cost, they'll come to you.
Yes.
Do you see the value of having like I've heard people say it's like a value ladder or things like that where they'll have like some free things, like maybe a podcast, a YouTube
Mhm.
channel, and then they might have like a small, you know,
I think the
dollar
classic
thing
play.
product.
Well, the classic play that's worked very well for me and a lot of my clients is the community, right?
Yep. Mhm.
So you say, hey, listen, you need help with the triangle. You need help
Yeah.
developing your product. You need help developing your system. You develop with your mentoring. Why don't you join my free community?
Yep.
Okay, come on in, ask questions in there. You're going to get peer-to-peer advice. You're going to get advice from me. You're going to get invited maybe once a week. You get a little, a Zoom or something where we break it down. And then at some point you say, listen, if you like what you're hearing and you like what you're getting, for $39 a month, you can get into the VIP club or whatever,
Yep.
the elite premium. I guess that's the word a lot of people use. Now for the premium, maybe you're getting another 2 or 3 Zooms a week where only the premium people are invited, right?
Right.
And maybe there's a group within the group where there's a lot more focused information or whatever. And then maybe you got the third tier, which is like the insider club or,
Yeah.
the 7-figure earner club. Yeah, there's so many names for the same
Right.
thing. Where now you're charging, $3.99 a month or some crazy numbers.
Yep.
But I think that's a really good, simple path for people that can build a community, but are willing to support it. You can't go in once every 3 months and post a 6-word thing. You got to be engaged daily with it.
Yep.
I think, and I'll add this. And this is really for the entrepreneurs out there who aren't really just starting. They've already kind of gotten a little bit along. Maybe they've got some clients, they've got some community. Your greatest asset is your tribe.
Yep.
Your greatest asset's your people. I think you're agreeing with me. It is, because look, how hard, it's not easy to go out and get a new client through marketing.
Right.
It happens. People do it every day. Fortunately, my funnels work pretty well, but they're not perfect. I'm always trying to tweak and split test, and you got to change it because the world changes around you, right?
Yep.
But you know where I still get the majority of my closed deals from?
Referrals from other clients that you've had.
Or some existing clients or past clients or joint venture partners.
Yep.
If I could do 100% that way, I would love it.
Oh yeah.
I'm not quite there yet. I may never be, because
Right.
it's really hard. And I think very few people get to that point, truly get to that point. But I'm just saying, like, don't get so focused on, trying to sell whatever, a pen, and forget that the people you sold the pens to are valuable to you in terms of your ecosystem, in terms of your brand, in terms of a mouthpiece for what you're doing, right? If you take care of them.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So how do you better take care of that community once you have that tribe? What do you see that works?
Well, the obvious thing is that you help them make more money,
right?
because ultimately that's the scorecard, right? They make more money, they're happy. They get more clients, they make more money, they're happy. Mm-hmm. So on a level, the bottom line is getting them the results that are actually tangible, countable. You can put it into a spreadsheet and so on and so on. There can be some feel good stuff as well. People like to be part of a community. It sort of allays their concerns sometimes because they see other people struggling, and it's like, if other people are struggling, we're going to struggle too. Or we get it. But I think, to answer your question, I do a lot in my communities polling people. Mm-hmm. So I do 2 live Zooms a week for my community. One, I make a topic. The other one, they pick the topic, or it's just an AMA, ask me anything. People aren't familiar with that term, where, I'm just basically fielding questions. And I'll say, every once in a while, I may say something like, and I'll joke and I say, you know what, I could answer that question, but I only answer that for my VIP level people. But I'm going to make an exception for this group today because I really, I'm engaged with what you all are doing, and I want you to have success. It's not really true. It's marketing. But and the other thing is, I'm not like this, but there was a point in my career where I was a little starstruck by some of the big names, right?
Right.
Like the Tony Robbins. I'm kind of dating myself a little bit. Russell Brunson's, like these guys that really had obviously made it, right? They weren't worrying about anything. And like, if you could get into one of their communities, which is hard now, it wasn't that hard back then, and you could actually get on a Zoom with these people and ask them a question, and they answered it. It was like, whoa, Tony Robbins answered a question.
Right.
And it was like kind of cool. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm at that level, but I'm saying within your own universe, within your own community, you're the tribal chief. I don't know what term to use. You're the leader, right? People want to respect you,
right? And
they want you to be the authority for them, right? So if you can establish that in a giving way, like, hey, look, I'm here to help you. It's like I say so many times, I've broken record. My success is your success. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Or your success becomes my success, and that's the idea. So to be really specific, I think you give people opportunities within your community or within your client base they can't get anywhere else.
Mm,
So I say, hey, Chris, been working with you a couple months. Progress you made is tremendous.
yeah.
I think I want you to be on my podcast in May.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought
Yeah.
only like successful people were in your podcast. No, no, yeah, you're ready. You're ready. You might believe you're ready, but you're ready.
Yep.
Or you know what? You've been doing great. I love how you show up every week. You're always doing your homework. I'm going to just give you an extra 30 minutes, 60-minute, one-on-one, because I think you could really get value out of it.
Yeah.
We just, believe me, whatever it might have cost me in opportunity cost, it comes back. I don't know how many fold, 7.9 fold. Probably comes back because you got a happy client. You can't pay for a happy client.
Right. No, I love that. And I think what can we do to over deliver, add more value, and support even more? One shows that you truly care about the results they get. Because, I'm sure you've been a part of it in the past or
Mhm.
another community where you joined the community and you thought you're going to get all these things. And then there was like no value. And it was just kind of,
It's same old same. It's recycled. Same old, same
yeah,
old.
that or you don't even get anything. Like you show up to calls and it's like not
Well,
productive at all. And I'm like, what?
I mean, I sell a lot of courses, right?
Sure.
So I don't know if you're a course creator guy, but or your community, whatever. How
Mhm.
many times do people pay good money to buy a course, to join a community,
Yep.
it's even to go to a webinar? I don't know, and then they don't even. And you can tell this people if you're not course creators. I can go on my back office, my dashboard of my course, and if Chris bought a course and he never even opened lesson one, I know.
Yep.
You can tell because the software tracks how many hours and minutes
Yep.
people are in it, where they do the quizzes at the end, whatever. And I might reach out and say, buddy, you spent $129 on this course. You haven't even started lesson one out of 15. Is your tech not working? Is there some reason you're not? Well, I've been really busy. My cat got sick. My kid, doesn't like their teacher and I got to do homework with them every night.
Yep.
I mean, so I think sometimes even that gesture,
Yeah.
because a lot of people, yeah, you know what, they didn't pay for they paid for the course. I got my money. I don't care. I'm moving on.
Right.
So sometimes I'll scour that. I'll make lists of it. I'll send out emails specifically. I call it my bottom third,
Okay.
my
Yep.
people who just aren't producing.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, somebody turns it around. Maybe they join and circumstances get in the way. It always does. Because with me too sometimes. And sometimes that. So to me, that's kind of a going above and beyond, at least to some degree. The other thing I think you can do is you just do spontaneous stuff, right?
Yep.
Like with me, Monday, Thursday, those are kind of my office days. I do stuff for the community Mondays and Thursdays. Every once in a while on a Wednesday, I say, you know what, people, 7 o'clock tonight, flash Zoom. We're going to talk about XYZ because I've seen a lot of comments about it in our threads.
Yep.
And let's just get it settled. Let's get it nailed. Try to bring a guest. This is going to be open. You can bring 2 guests each or something.
Right. No, I like that.
You don't have to do like earth moving giant things.
Yeah.
As long as people understand why what you're trying to do to help them.
Yeah. And I
So
think that's good. It's keeping a finger on the pulse of like what the community's needs are, the pain points they're having, and then
mhm.
like breaking those down into smaller, Zoom calls or whatever it is, so they can get kind of more bite-sized nuggets from you, and continue to grow and improve, which I think is great.
Well, keep in mind too, if we're
Yeah.
talking about brand building
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about front of mind, right?
Yeah.
It part of your brand is what people will say about you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If they're being honest, right?
Right.
Hey, what do you think of Steve? What do you think of Dr. Steve?
Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to say is he's always there to help me.
Yeah.
Whenever I have a problem or whenever I have XYZ, he makes time for me.
Yep.
Or maybe he's always back to me by the next day. I'm not as concerned about them saying, "Oh, yeah, I went from $5,000 to 42,000 in 3 months." Of course, I'd love that to happen,
Yep.
and it can, and it does occasionally, but not all the time.
Right.
So I think that's important, and I think that's part of your brand, right? Just as much as the color on your website, I suppose. I think the other piece of it is, and we kind of started on this a little bit, is I have products that people don't need all the time.
Yep.
Right. So it creates the question is, okay, If somebody isn't looking for what I do now, but they might be in 6 months or 3 months or a year, how do I get in front of them? How do I become the go-to person when it's time to make that decision?
Yeah.
And that's where just being out there and sort of being consistent and providing broad content, broad value helps.
Right.
And it's not hard. It's a little time consuming, I guess sometimes it can be. And you do have to master some of the deliverables. Like if you're going to make videos, you got to get pretty good at video. You got to get some decent. You can't see. I got actually have some whole lighting system and
Yeah.
sound. You don't want schlocky stuff. You don't want amateur stuff, but you don't have to go crazy. I still make a lot of my videos on, even though I have expensive cameras and fancy podcast equipment, I make a lot of it on my phone because it's good enough for the standard that I think is important.
Yeah.
But I think in one or two words, consistency and availability are really important.
Yeah, I would agree. I think those two things are are huge when, especially trying to build a community. Um, so as someone's trying to build this community, they're showing up consistently, they're being available. How do they kind of position their message or build something that's going to help them, their pipeline? I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
their funnel. How do they
Well,
think
if you
about
think,
this?
okay, so let's get like real business school
Yeah,
101, day one, first minute of the class. What's the classic thing every entrepreneur has to consider when they're rolling out a product, right?
yeah.
What's the question they have to ask themselves?
Will someone
What
buy this?
problem is this solving?
Yeah. Yep.
It is so basic that
Yep.
people overthink it, overdo it, over everything it. So that's where it all starts, right?
Right.
What problem am I solving? What problem is this product or me or this service, whatever, helping my client to solve?
Yep.
Okay, well that can trigger everything else. That becomes part of your messaging. So if you think that's your whatever it is, you're selling XYZ that solves problem ABC, right?
Yep.
Well, right away you've got part of your funnel, right?
Right.
Because the draw into your funnel should be, this is your problem. You can't do this, or you're being blocked from this. You're not getting full results here. We have the solution. Click here to get your whatever PDF, link to a video, link to a webinar, whatever your tripwire is going to be,
Yeah.
to figure out how you're going to solve that problem.
Yep.
So if you think about it, if you've clearly defined your solution, you've also given yourself kind of a basis for your funnel.
Right.
Right. Now, of course, funnels can get really complicated depending on how much you want to qualify, blah, blah, blah. Let's not worry about that today.
Right.
But the message is the key.
Yeah.
Because listen, people buy emotionally more than they buy intellectually.
Yep.
Right. Oh, yeah. I just suck at, I don't know. I'm not good on the phone. Oh, look, here's this guy's got a product, improve your phone conversations in 30 seconds, whatever. Oh, look, maybe that's a solution for me. I need that.
Yep.
I'm scared to do it, but I need it. Maybe I'll try it, right? So, and then the third piece is when you pick up the mentoring. So your product is what the solution is.
Yep.
Then the marketing has to convey that on a couple levels. Number one, what it does, enough not to totally give it away.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is why you're the guy to get her from, or the woman to get her from, right? Why am I the subject matter expert? So why am I the go-to? That's part of the education. And then the mentoring, like my role as a coach in this case, would be, let's tweak this. Let's make sure the product is packaged to really be good. Let's make sure it's priced right. Let's make sure the funnel is getting people from point A to point B to point C and qualify them. So by the time you have the closing conversation, unless the system's going to do it for you, it's just a matter of them feeling good about working with you. So it all intertwines. That's why I invented it, but I love this concept. I think it's so cool because each piece of the triangle feeds the other two pieces.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it would happen anyway. People just don't put it together that way because they specialize. You got the funnel builder people, you got the video creator people,
Yep.
you got the product creator people, you got the coaches. And, maybe I'm a generalist, but I don't know that many people kind of purposefully and intentionally doing all three.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because your message will come about once you know the product and the problem you solve. You're gonna be able to speak to it, create content around it. So
That is the core
Yeah.
Most fundamental thing you have to get clear about from day one. I mean, that
Yeah.
you want to talk about giving away free value, people, whoever's listening to this, entrepreneurs, that you must be crystal lucid, as clear as you can possibly be on answering that. What solution does this provide for what problem? If you can't articulate that in a brief amount of time, please do yourself a favor, reach out to me, reach out to Chris, reach out to somebody who can help you, but get that down.
Yeah. Because then you just you know your audience, you know what they're dealing with, how they're feeling, and you can build the content around that and in that with that framework that you've talked about. So, um, now as we're building this, you've talked a lot about build it once, earn forever kind of thing. What are some things that you put in place to help you, quote unquote, earn forever?
Well, you have to realize that let's say day one, everything's going perfectly, right?
Sure.
The world's going to change around you, right? The,
Yeah.
the, the internet's going to change around you. Social media is going to change around you, whatever. And you have to be able to foresee that and adapt,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't wait until nobody's coming to your page anymore to tweak your page.
Sure.
So here's some things you can do. Research your competition. What are they doing? Maybe you're not doing. Some of it you might like, some you might dislike. Look at trends, right? Maybe you've got a product that was great 6 months, 3 months, 2 years ago, and it's starting to come to the end of its natural path, right?
Mhm.
It's just usefulness is less than its utility is less than it used to be.
Right.
Try to foresee that. And maybe most importantly, maybe this should have been number one. Get feedback from your people,
Yeah.
right? Um, so I think part of the entrepreneurial spirit isn't being stagnant with once you've had success.
Right.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice if that was the case.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to stay in the game and you're going to kind of just be evolving, you got to evolve with what's going on in the larger circumstance,
Yeah.
right? I'm not even saying that's easy to do and it can be time consuming,
Yeah.
but it is a lot easier now with tools that are available. This discussion isn't about AI and stuff. And I think there's a place for it. I think there's not a place for it in some cases,
Right.
but it is good for research. And you got to look at your own numbers, learn whatever software your funnel's on is going to give you feedback.
Right.
If you send an email to a list of 1,000 people and 7% open it up, probably that's not such a great email, right? Your internal list should open 20, 30, they say 33%, right?
Right.
If you're getting low number, like the numbers always tell you something,
Yep.
but you have to be willing to listen to what they're saying and not be in some kind of denial or, well, next time it'll be better.
Right. Yeah.
I was a little tired when I wrote that email.
Right.
But I do think looking at your competition is useful. I also think talking to your community, I said both of them before. Another thing you can do is just experiment, try
Right.
stuff, right? Tweak stuff, just maybe change things. Sometimes weird stuff, like even changing your headline has a big difference.
Yep.
I've seen situations people, they keep their entire landing page the same except the title, and all of
Yep.
a sudden it pulls more.
Yeah. So what's the best way to draw people into that landing page besides obviously your content? I guess my question would be, how often are we giving a call to action
The
to
wrong
go to
people.
that? Yeah.
Well, think about it. I don't know if you're a fisherman, but if you want to catch bass, you don't go to a stream where there's only trout,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure you're fishing in the right pond.
Mm.
You got to go. This is so one thing I didn't talk about at all. We don't need to because you probably interviewed our people. Is in addition, the other major thing of knowing what solution you provide is knowing who your client is, your
Yep.
ideal client, your avatar, whatever you want to call it, and where they live.
Yeah.
I mean, where you would find them, not literally like
Right.
are they on Instagram? Are they
Right.
on TikTok?
Yep.
Are they whatever standing at the mall?
Yep.
How are you going to find them? This is sort of stupid, but your chance of catching a bass is a lot better if you're fishing in a bass stream than if you're fishing in deep sea ocean where they don't live, right?
Right.
So if your messaging isn't going into the pool, so to speak, of where your people are, you're probably destined to not have much success anyway.
Right.
So part of your marketing research is you got to figure this out. Who's my ideal client? Well, I have one product. I do a lot of stuff in the education space. Well, so this is the simple analysis. Who typically deals with, if you have kids, who typically oversees their schoolwork? Not to be stereotypical, but typically more the mother. Okay.
Yeah.
They just tend to be more involved. It's just sort of how things play out. Okay. Well, how old is a typical person that might have, let's say, an eighth grader? Eighth graders are about 12, 13. They just figured out a kid 25. So they're probably in their mid 30s, let's say 30 to 45. Okay. So now I know women 30 to 45, probably going to have a little more success selling stuff in a little more higher income range. So maybe I'm looking suburbia, middle class, upper middle class, whatever. So now I got three big parameters. So where you just, what do you think? Where does a woman who's got, young teenagers, older, whatever kids, older tweens, whatever they call them.
Right.
And they've got a decent income, maybe driving a half decent car, maybe works. Where are they hanging out? Well, most of them are on Instagram, maybe a little bit of TikTok and Facebook.
Or in Target.
or shopping at, or shopping at the mall. So if I am running promo ads, whatever, on YouTube, and I'm thinking, gee, why isn't this pulling?
Right.
Because that's not where they are.
Yep.
Now, the flip side, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are kind of like in college, but aren't really in college mentally. Their heart isn't there. They went to college because their parents wanted them to, or whatever, but they really want to be the next Bill Gates. They want to be the next Elon Musk. They want to be the next whatever. But they don't know what they're doing. So where do I find them? Reddit.
Oh, yeah.
Where do college kids hang out? They're not on Facebook. College kids gave up Facebook like 1999 or something. They're on all these newer ones, right? I don't know these as well. I'm not a huge social media, person. So what do? I don't try to do something I know how to do. I hire out. I farm that out. Hey, I need to find somebody who's a Reddit expert, who's a TikTok expert, who can get my message out for me on these platforms, because this is where those people are, right? Yeah. They're in different kind of populations. Now, it's always harder to try to market into 3 or 4 spaces. I would tell you as a mentor, just try to do one really well, and then maybe go into a second, but I think that's a long answer to what your very concise question was, which is, how do you know your message is getting out there? You got to make sure you're delivering the message where the people who want to hear your message and are going to respond to it are hanging out. Absolutely. Which is essentially, to go back to business school, market research, right?
Yeah.
Mind you, I never went to business school. I never had a business class in my life. I learned everything the hard way, which is why having a mentor, 0.3 of the triangle helps, right? So, to kind of encapsulate it, because we might be running up on time soon, you got in the first thing, your product. What does it solve? Who's your person? People, where are they hanging out? That's a real big thing in the first vertex of your triangle. What's your system? Well, to some degree, the answers to the product can help you formulate your system. Yep. Maybe not technically. I'm not talking about building it,
however
you build in a CRM or whatever, but I'm saying message wise.
Right.
Talk to your people. If you had a room of 20 people, you got to figure out, well, which ones want what I want. You need to qualify them, right? And then the mentoring to me is just the accelerant. It's the gas. Right. It's what's going to make you go from 30 to 100 as quickly as possible. Yeah. But choose your mentor. Get somebody who knows the field you want to be. I'm not suited for a lot of people, but the ones I'm suited for, it's usually a very good fit.
I like that. And so if you're asking people, trying to talk to people, obviously you might not have a room of, say 100 ideal clients or prospects or whatever to ask. Do you find there's a good way to collect that data besides just going like DM, message, email? Like, do you ever do like an intake, like survey or poll with that audience?
I have tried every conceivable thing ever.
Yeah.
No, polls. I've done all kinds of giveaways. I've done pretty much anything I think will work.
Yeah.
Because you don't know it's going to work or not going to work to some degree till you try it.
Yeah.
I used to do kind of like a giveaway. This worked for a while. It kind of dried up, unfortunately, because I liked it, where I did like a contest, right? Like, okay, can you pass the Triangle of Success quiz? And it was a 3-question quiz. And one question was about their product. One question was about their target audience, and their target audience. One was about their funnel. One was about the mentoring. So obviously the answers are really easy, right? And if they passed, hey, congratulations, and like actually like this fireworks popped up on the screen somehow, the video people put in,
Nice.
You won a 15-minute consult with renowned world famous business coach and bestselling author Dr. Steve, right? So people are like, oh my God, I won something. That worked for a while, and it probably still could. I probably should get back to that. Actually, you know what?
Do you push that out with just posting about it, or do you
Yeah,
use
yeah, I would put it on social. I put it on mostly, Instagram, places where you can do polls.
Yeah. Do you run an ad with that, or is it just like an organic post?
My opinion, I spent so much and wasted most of it money on paid ads.
Yeah.
I just said, you know what? I got to figure out how to do this organically.
Sure.
Because I'm not going to go broke. I could be wrong, and I don't want to disrespect anybody who's done it, but most of the people I've seen who've done well with paid ads are spending like big money, 30, 40, 50 a month to make 100.
Right.
Now I'll take that if I know I can do it.
Right.
But the problem is you can't spend 2 to get 4.
Right.
Because if you're going to get into paid ads, your numbers, you got to have the cash flow, you got to have the capital, and you got to be really careful because it can burn out really fast. Yeah. And so I have always tried to go organic. I've reached a point, fortunately, where just within my community, I can usually get at least a little bit of a kind of a spark going to get interest. But that took a long time to develop. That took years.
Yeah.
So that for a new person, I don't think that's necessarily a functional strategy. No, you just got to be out there. Nobody's going to know what you're selling unless you tell them you're selling it.
Right.
And even if you tell them, you might have to tell them 6 times because you got 18 other people yelling at them what they're selling.
Yeah.
So sometimes the consistency and the persistency is what wins.
Absolutely.
Would
you say?
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was going to say, think about your podcast, Chris. You got a great podcast, right?
Yeah.
I've listened to several, maybe like 8 episodes. I don't know how many. How many do you have?
We're over 450 right now. Yeah.
Yeah. This by all standards a very successful podcast. Congratulations. And the ones I've listened to have a lot of value.
Right.
So the question is, how do you know it? How do you know who's listening? It's you could ask the same question, right? Yep. You put out a podcast episode. How do I know who listens to it? What they got out of it? Were they my target person? Are they going to kind of circle back and now subscribe and want more of what my content is? Go listen to other ones. It's the exact same challenge, right?
Yep.
Basically, where do you post it up? Are you going to post a basically a business-based podcast in a sports forum?
Right.
No,
yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
You find out business forums, you find out, business groups, maybe LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever, and so it doesn't matter. And you try to put it where you believe the population will be interested in it. It's no different with your product. Yeah. If you're selling fishing hooks, I actually have a client who makes their own little, you ever see a thing where they're sitting there like tying knots and stuff? They somehow invented a machine that does it's like a sewing machine, but it makes fishing lures. Pretty cool. But anyway, well, he's not going to sell them. He's got it. It's obvious. Where would you sell them? You can answer your own question, right? If you're out there in podcast land, people, if you're selling fishing lures, custom fishing lures, where would you sell them? Let me make it multiple choice. A, in a group for people that want to learn how to cook dessert recipes on their own. B, in something talking about pro wrestling, a pro wrestling forum on Facebook. C, a group of people who are always talking about fishing and great places to go fishing.
Yep.
It's so obvious, though. Sometimes people don't do it because it's a little bit of work and maybe a lot of work to go find where those groups are.
Right. Yeah.
That's the work.
And I think part of it, too, is like an underlying thought of rejection or like fear of rejection. Like if I post this, it doesn't work, or there's something, kind of like the imposter syndrome thing. Like, oh, I'm not at the level to be able to give value or
well, that's real.
Sure. Yeah.
But how's it ever that we could do a whole podcast just on that. So maybe we don't want to open that box, but I'll just say this because a lot of my clients have dealt with that. And I do too. I have, and I do sometimes when I come out with something new. But what's the only way that's going to get cured?
Reps, practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. Correct answer. Yeah. You got to just get out there and do it.
Yep.
I'm not good with heights. I don't like heights. My whole life I've been afraid of heights, right?
Yeah.
So I go to Sydney, Australia. I don't know if
Okay.
anybody's been to Sydney. You ever been to Sydney, Chris?
Not yet. No.
Beautiful city, man. One of the biggest attractions there is right in the middle of the city. They have a lot of bridges in this harbor, but there's this the biggest bridge, Sydney Harbor Bridge. And you can pay like $250 to walk over the top of the bridge.
Oh, wow.
If you Google it, Sydney Harbor Bridge, you'll see
Yeah.
people at the top. It's called the Bridge Walk. And you're like 200, what's in meters? I don't know, I'm trying to think. It's like 200 meters above the ground. It's like 600 feet above the ground.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's like, you know, when you go like rock climbing or like zip line, and give you like this little kind of harness thing.
Yeah.
A carabiner, what do they call that? A
Carabiners. Yeah.
carabiner, right? And
Yeah.
you're clipped on, and they got like this thing. There's no way on earth I voluntarily want to go up on that thing, right? I'm scared of heights. I'm shaking. I'm like getting a cold sweat. And my wife's like, "Oh no, it'll be really fun." And you love to take pictures. I do like photography. I'm a big
Oh,
amateur.
nice. Awesome.
Oh, think of the pictures you're going to be able to take up there. And we did it at sunset, right?
Oh, nice.
So it's like beautiful sunset. I am like over here, like hanging on. There's people like leaning over the edge.
Oh, wow.
And finally I said, you know what? What am I really that afraid of? The worst thing is I fall over and the tether to my harness is going to catch me.
Hopefully.
And I had this like kind of semi epiphany. I'm like, you know what? The only person holding me back is me.
Yep.
Nobody here is telling me I got to cower in the corner because I'm afraid of heights. And
Right.
believe me, it was scary. Nobody's telling me you can't. It was my choice, right?
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to like take a couple steps over. And I finally got to the point where I'm actually looking down 400 or 500 feet into this harbor. And there's a whole bunch of ferries there. And there's ferry comes along and it honks because it was going into the station called Circular Quay. Anyway, one of these big horns. And it like scared me. And but the point of the story is, which has kind of nothing to do with business, but yet everything to do with business, is the limitation was up here.
Yep.
Limitation wasn't somebody else, which often happens, saying, "How can you not do this? You're too dumb. You don't have any experience. What do you know about entrepreneurship?" The limitation was not external; it was internal.
Yep.
And I was surrounded by people. There were about 18 people in this little tour we did, maybe 20. I don't know. Nobody else. Well, there's one other woman who was a little scared, but we were the only two that were like, tiptoeing. And I was actually pretty proud of myself that I kind of like made a little bit of a breakthrough. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's an allegory that in business there's going to be scary things.
Yep.
There's going to be times you don't know if it's going to work.
Yep.
And even if it could work, it might not work because there's so much competition. Somebody already might have beat you to the punch.
Yeah.
But if you're not in the game, if you're not there, if you're not even trying, you're not even putting yourself in a position, you're never going to get there.
Right.
It always reminds me, this is what happens in your life. When I was growing up in school, I tell a lot of stories because it's easiest way for me to make my point.
It's great. Yeah.
They used to give us, this is funny because I do a lot of work in education. They don't even have books in school anymore. It's all online. It's all on tablets. When I was growing up, we actually had books.
Yep.
Like actual books.
Yep.
And we had to, like the first night of school, our homework was you had to put covers on the books.
Oh, wow.
They would like give you these covers and they have like the emblem of the school on the front. And you had to go home and cover your books, right? And there's like a couple ways you can do book covers. And my mom had one way, my dad in our way anyway, it don't matter. On the back of the book, every single book cover in the whole school had the same quote. And I'm probably going to mess it up. Maybe somebody could Google it. It was a quote by John F. Kennedy.
Uh-huh.
I think he was quoting somebody else, maybe even Theodore Roosevelt. And it was like something like, the credit belongs to the person who's in the arena, whose face is sweaty and bloody. And even if they fail, at least they've tried, or something like that. I could look up this quote. I haven't. I'm talking like, I'm talking 45 years ago. I was in high school, so forgive me if my memory isn't what it used to be. But it's something. I think it was John F. Kennedy, or maybe he took it from somebody else. But it kind of got burned into my memory because every time I grabbed a book for 6 years to middle school and high school, I saw this quote.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can find it. Feel free to Google while I just ramble. But but it's the same idea, right? And it's the same idea is in business. And maybe we can close with this because it's kind of behind it. I get excited about this. I find business very like sports almost. Like it's a challenge. Is if you don't believe in yourself, and this is so cliche, but it is so true. No one's going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. If you're not willing to get out there, you got to have your infrastructure. You got to have your message right. You
Yep.
got to have this and that. People like myself, probably yourself, mentors will help you get this, people. But you got to have your messaging, you got to know your target audience, you got to get your tech right, you got to get your funnels right. But if you're too scared to pull the trigger and do it, it's all a waste of time.
100%.
You got to get out there and do it, right?
What is it? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah. That was your Wayne Gretzky or Michael
Yep.
Jordan. You know, it's
Yep.
one of them.
And I did find the quote you were mentioning. It's from Theodore Roosevelt, and
All right,
it's
Theodore Roosevelt. There we
it's
go.
not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood,
There
who
you
strives
go.
valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that
No.
so
There you
that his
go.
place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Amazing. So I was in high school. It might have been closer to 50 years ago. OMG. But
Wow.
that got burned into my thinking because I saw it
Yeah.
every day for years whenever I had the book in front of me.
Yeah.
But it's really true. It's it was there for a reason. They might have been a little. They might have truncated the quote tiny bit, but
Yeah.
you get the point. I bet you
Yep.
didn't think we were going to talk about that today, huh?
No, that's awesome. I love it. And I think that's a great way to end. And
Yeah.
yeah, Steven, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciated how you shared the triangle of success and the different pieces to give really actionable steps that people can take to start making a difference and getting their message out there. So if people wanted to connect with you, learn more from you, even get your help if it's the right time and right place,
Mhm.
where's the best place for them to do that?
Well, I mentioned that lead magnet I have, which
Yeah.
is it's Get Greene, GETGREENE.net. And that'll take you to a landing page. You know, you got to give up a little info. You'll get that video. If you want to get a hold of me directly, what's the easiest way? Email? What do you, phone? What's the easiest way? What do you recommend?
You're on LinkedIn. Are you there or are you on?
LinkedIn, you can just search for me, Dr. Stephen Greene. LinkedIn, yes. Maybe I can get you that link if you want to put in the show
Cool.
notes.
Sure.
I'll give you the stuff, email, all
Yeah,
that. I'll
we'll get
put it in
you.
the show notes. Please get the video is really good. I mean, I've given it to hundreds thousands of people, and it is what it is. It's perfect. The story I told is exactly true.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do a lot of giveaway stuff. I always have some kind of intake and some kind of free thing before we would engage.
Yeah.
I am proud to say I have a very high retention rate.
Awesome.
Most people I do work with me stay.
That's
They'll,
awesome.
they'll stay in the community. They'll run through maybe the coaching time we have, and then they'll stay.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that. I think it's a tribute to the fact that they're getting at least part of what they want and need, and in an ongoing basis. So
That's awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, everyone, make sure you check out his freebie there, that free video at getgreen.com or .net.
7 steps to creating your own ebook is the official title,
Oh,
but
awesome.
it could
Yeah.
create anything.
Yeah. So make sure you get a hold of that, check that out, and get connected with Dr. Greene and continue to learn from him. But Dr. Greene, no, thank you so much again for being on the Elevate Media podcast
No,
today.
my pleasure, man. It was great. It was
Absolutely.
really good.
And if you're listening to this, make sure you follow the show if you aren't already, and then share this with an entrepreneur who's out there starting out, who's trying to get their message down, because we can do that. We can help so many more people together.
Mhm.
But until next time, make sure you go out there, continue to elevate your life, elevate your business, and we'll talk to you again next time.